All right, welcome back to League of Our Own for episode 10, season 2. Adam Blair, great to see you, mate. And I'm so glad to see you because, well, the high shots, they are topical. Guys in the middle of the park smacking each other up, apparently, according to the NRL. And Scott Sorensen, Kiwis International, need to get your thoughts on this first and foremost. He's been rubbed out for not 1, not 2, but 3 weeks for his shot on Nathan Brown. What's your initial reaction to that outcome as he challenged the charge at the judiciary? It was a grade 2 shoulder charge, and he's fought and lost. He's out for 3 games, man.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you going. And episode 10, man, we are pumping these out. It's exciting.
Churning through, yeah.
So good, but on the top of Scotty Sorensen, I think it's really disappointing that someone who has honestly got the cleanest sheet, I reckon, left in the game of rugby league.
Yeah.
One of the nice guys in the game that doesn't want to hurt anyone, but, can get over the line and do a job. But I guess the hardest thing, Goran, I think when you're trying to fight charges or downgrade charges, he was charged for a shoulder charge. And when we think about the action and what the NRL are looking at, or the judiciary look at, is whether you are actually wrapping your arms when you make a tackle, or you've got the old bent one that we used to do back in the days. And in his case, his arm was down, and he's come out and obviously shoulder charged. So I guess when you're trying to downgrade, I don't know what you're trying to downgrade, if that makes sense, because you can't downgrade a shoulder charge when the wording clearly says that this is the action of a shoulder charge. That's my thought and my interpretation. When it comes to, man, doing your best when someone runs off the back fence.
Oh, he's stormed in from 40 metres away, mate. He came off the back fence.
He literally was off the back fence,
yeah,
and come flying. And mate, he is a lamb to the slaughter when you're going. And sometimes, as defenders, you do your best, and you don't always make the right decision when it comes to tackle technique. Or if in his case, it was a 3-man contact, so there was 2 guys in front of Scotty when he made that contact with his arm. Maybe there wasn't any room for him to wrap around his own teammates to actually tackle. I get that. I understand there's a lot of different factors in it. But in saying that, which is disappointing for Scotty Sorensen because he's a great guy, a great player, the action and the interpretation of the shoulder charge, that's where he's got unstuck.
Yeah. The way I viewed it was he was in the middle. I think he had McLean on one side. I forget who was on his right-hand side. And it was Sorensen who kind of led the charge, maybe made the initial contact. But because he's in front of the other 2 guys, the 2 pillars, let's call them, if he tries to wrap, and then you've got Nathan Brown storming in at, say, 25, 30 Ks an hour, and McLean coming in on his left-hand side, then what happens to that arm? What happens to his pec, his shoulder? He's looking at a shoulder dislocation and being wiped out of the game for maybe the rest of the season. And I know that we're focused on protecting the head, and the head is sacrosanct, and we've come such a long way in the space of 5, 10, 20 years in terms of our knowledge around what massive head contact does to a human being and the brain inside their skull. And we need to make sure that we hold that up on high. But we've also got to think about protecting everybody. Now, Nathan Brown, after the impact, had no issue. Did Nathan Brown go off for a head injury assessment? No, he did not. He was fine. He was good to continue. And this is another conversation that I think is worth having, where it's intent versus accidental or incidental contact, right? Because, I think you and I can probably agree on this. I saw intent, for example, and a different kind of tackle, I know. I saw definite intent in what Satili Tupanua did with raising his knee. Now, the outcome of his effort, if you could call it that, was he sits down for 2 weeks for that. Yeah, I know he gets 5 weeks in total, but it's only 2 weeks for a raised knee. and you played the game long enough, 15 years in the game, 331 first grade games, you know to look at that action, that is not a natural running style. That is not his natural running gait, correct?
Correct.
That is intent.
I think this is where the fans get confused and coaches get confused and players get confused around, I guess, the actions of what they've seen on the field, and like clearly, and whether it was accidental, it still didn't look normal. It still didn't look normal. I don't see too many players running with or raising their knee when they come into contact. And you know, to be honest, I think Brendan Piakura was very lucky to stay on the field. If that flush hit him on the jaw, maybe a broken jaw. And I think the grading was it was an early guilty. So he got 3 weeks, early guilty 2 weeks. But still, that for me, that's nearly a month on the sideline. Like you don't want to see that in the game. And I know I come from a different era, and there'll be a lot of fans out there will say, "Man, you were a grub when you played." I played on the edge. I played on the edge within the rules of the game. Yeah. Within the rules of
Is
the
that right,
game.
grub?
And you know, people watching and listening will go, you know, you don't be throwing stones at glass houses, old Madge Maguire.
You've got this guy talking about, I mean, you're the appropriate guy to talk about this, mate.
Perfect person to actually be talking about this guy.
The only person I ever want to talk to about this kind of thing.
There is no one else in the game or former players that you want to talk about these kind of incidents than Adam Blair.
You can't talk to Sean Johnson about this kind of thing. You got to go to Adam Blair.
So I never spent that long on the sidelines. Obviously, the Brookvale battle was the biggest one.
That's slightly different, mate. That's
slightly different to raising a knee. And then we're trying to compare them with a lot of these incidents over the weekends and where the game's going. And now, obviously, Abdo's come out, and there's been a bit, you know, the Friday night was an example of where it all started. A lot of loose stuff with, obviously, Satili Tupanua, some high shots, some shoulder charges, and it led through the whole weekend. And some of them were just blatant, like taps. Surely Cody Nukurima, you can't, like, he's a halfback, one of the smallest blokes on the field, gets sent off for tapping someone on the face. Like, you know, if I'm a middle forward and I'm running the ball and if a halfback hits me across the face, it's play on. It's play on, because they're the smallest blokes on the field. They could even shoulder charge me. I'd be fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, mate, you're a halfback. So I just think there was a whether the refs were tipped off before the games that this is where we're trying to get to. I think it backfired a little bit, and now they're trying to change things again around Magic Round, because I think sometime, was it a couple of years ago or a year ago, where they had this big crackdown, and it was just ridiculous. Everyone was blowing up. So maybe they were trying to throw something out there before to see where it sits with people, and now they're going to have to try and rejig it and change it again, because, man, if you get any of those calls, some of those soft ones, in 10 minutes, it's going to ruin the weekend and the spectacle for the fans. And I just think some of those calls, especially Scotty's one, have 3 weeks off to try and fight a downgrade, a shoulder charge, and then you see the difference between Satili Tupanua's knee to the head. I think there's a big difference in some of the time spent on the field for those incidents.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that former Warrior Josh Curran, his charge was exactly the same as Scott Sorensen's. Now, I spoke about intent versus accidental or incidental contact, right? Now, Josh Curran, I felt like there was definite intent in what he did against Payne Haas, because it was almost like he was lining him up, and then Haas with footwork and movement. I mean, God, the guy is an absolute legend. He knows exactly what he's doing to try and avoid any kind of contact. Curran's actually extended out with his elbow to make sure that he made contact with his face. So to get the same amount of time on the sidelines, I think is just unjust. And you mentioned the the paymasters and the people who control the game. Andrew Abdo's been on the front foot. He's talked to all kinds of media outlets over in Australia, and you would have seen it firsthand living in Newcastle these days. And he's been on the front foot saying, oh, look, you know, the number of sin bins out of the last round, which was 18, and most of them were for head-high contact, it's because that there has been a huge increase in head-high contact through the first 8 rounds. What's the statistic? It's up 90% same time last year. But to him, I'd say, and I'd ask, well, what are you constituting as head-high contact these days?
Correct.
Because I honestly feel like the goalposts have shifted in that regard. And, you know, you mentioned Cody, a little a hand in the face, a little, you know, poke in the eye or whatever it was, and that constitutes head-high contact? That doesn't wash with me. And I think when I see Andrew Johns going absolutely berserk and showing us all that he's finally read a dictionary and using the word farcical about 70 million times, like, yeah, people are upset and things need to change. And I wonder if they will for Magic Round, or if the NRL and Abdo and Volandis have made a rod for their back, and it's kind of like, well, shit, we've started off this way. We're just going to have to, you know, see it through.
Well, you know what makes it's frustrating watching games now too, Goran, is that they can go back a whole set and send someone off for an incident that happened. It could even be 2 minutes ago. Yeah. You know, and 2 minutes in the game of rugby league is a long time.
They're trying to stamp that out now. That's one of the things that he's mentioned.
And I'm like, but if you didn't get it then, that wasn't obviously not serious enough for you to stop the game. So let's just move forward.
Yeah.
Let the match review all these things. If it's not as blatant or as obvious as you can see it in the action right there in the moment, then we play through and let the match review the games, because that's their job. They go through and watch every single game, every minute, and look at all these incidents, and then they can make those calls. If it's a blatant one, the video ref can come in and say, hey, that's no good. But surely if you're a ref on the field, I know there's a lot going on. Surely if you're a ref on the field, you know the difference between someone getting hit high on purpose with intent than someone accidentally getting a clip on the face and then sending him off for 10 minutes when there's someone like Sitili who did a knee, only got put on report and didn't get sent off for the game. Like, that one was a blatant, obviously, knee to the head. You didn't even have to look at the replay to see that. So for me, you're saying that's okay. Stay on the field. It's fine. Play on. Hold on. Luckily, you know, Brendan Piakura wasn't knocked out or broken jaw. He's walking off of his hand in his mouth, and he stays on the field. So I think, you know, the weekend's games was a bit of a mixed bag of high emotions from, first and foremost, Thursday night blockbuster game, Suncorp Stadium, Bulldogs on a high, winning team that hasn't lost a game this year, sitting comfortably defensively, the best defense in the competition, wet weather game. Madge Maguire played straight into the hands of the Bulldogs, got his team up for this game, played a smart style of football, really challenged the intent and the integrity in the defensive line of the Bulldogs, and they got caught up in the hype and maybe started believing their own hype around their defensive system. Yes, I understand that they're a great defensive team, but they got caught up in and got a little bit loose and got a bit carried away. So let's hope that Magic Rounds, there's a little bit of a fairy dust and we can just move on and play the game of rugby league that everyone wants to see.
Yeah, I'd hate to think that Magic Round becomes Tragic Round, eh? And all of a sudden everyone's getting sin-binned left, right and centre. Maybe they're trying to get the new record. You know, they said it last week and then, hey, I see you're 18 sin bins, but here's 23. I hope it doesn't come to that. But look, I don't want to be flippant because, you know, we have seen in very recent history as well what constant head contact and not putting the player welfare at front of mind, what that does, right? You know, I'm thinking about guys like Jake Friend, guys like Boyd Cordner, who have been forced into early retirement through repeated concussions. I've got grave fears for what might happen to Victor Radley in retirement.
I was about to say that.
You know, whether he retires early or, you know, once he's done his stint and gone the full journey, you know, when he's 50, what kind of sort of life is he going to lead? Keegan Hipgrave, when he was with the Eels, he retired, what was it, age 24 or something stupid like that. And closer to home, Lance Hohaya, not that he was close to home when it happened, but he got punched in the head in the Super League Grand Final by prop Ben Flower, and he was forced into an early retirement. So we know that you've got to take care of these guys. So if the NRL is to say, look, we've set up our stall, and this is the way it operates until the end of time. What are the solutions to dealing with that? So, you know, like contact such as Marata Niokore against your Knights at the weekend, which seemed incidental to me. If that's worthy of a sin bin, maybe it's not a 10-minute sin bin. Maybe they need to alter the amount of time that people spend on the sideline, because 10 minutes is a long chunk of a game. And a game can be taken away from a team if they are wronged in that manner. You know, I'm comfortable to say that. I think what Marata did was not worthy of 10 minutes in the sin bin, right? Maybe it's a case of, for things that don't have intent, that don't hurt people, it's kind of like a 2-minute or a 5-minute. I know we're starting to become very, very complex and complicated when we start to consider things like this. But I honestly feel like we need to go down that path if the NRL stays the course.
You know what I think, Goran? And
You're going to tell me.
No, I mentioned it earlier before. If you don't pick it up in the moment, allow the match review committee to make those decisions later on where they review all the games, because I feel like everything you do on the footy field has intent. You know what I mean?
But not intent to injure.
No, but no one ever goes out there to injure anyone. No one ever, as a player, you never go out to
But things appear more reckless than others.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean? Something like Latrell Mitchell's tackle.
Oh, my God, yeah.
A lot of mitigating factors as well, though.
Human missile, though. Jesus.
There was a carelessness in what he did. So there was no care for Suafa-Longo. But
none at all.
When you're coming at speed to make a conventional tackle, Suafa-Longo's got one of the best feet in the competition. And you've made a decision to come in, and at the last minute he slips to under you, and you end up still trying to tackle that conventional tackle, but you hit him high because he's at a lower level. I feel like those things, they are mitigating factors, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's, yes, there's intent to tackle someone and hit through them, which you should always do when you're making a contact, but he slipped. So I feel like sometimes those things are accidental. I reckon it's really hard. I reckon it's really hard to try and challenge things that if this doesn't have that much intent in it, and this one has just this, if we've just tapped them on the face, those kind of things, I feel like then it's as the game gets quicker, the game's going to get faster than what it is now. And if we want this game to go, we have to find a way, and I don't reckon we've got the solutions there, Goran. We don't have the solutions here. We have to find a way where we can not have some of these calls that are happening, because I feel like the game's too fast for a ref to see these things at high speed with the intent, obviously, that, you know, when you see Latrell Mitchell come forward, you think, holy heck, he's killing him. He's going to kill him. Yeah. That's how hard he's coming, you know what I mean? So the ref only sees that action. He doesn't see where he hits him. He might not have hit him in the head. He might have hit him at the body, but because it's so fast, you're going, mate, you got to go. Like that's dangerous. So I feel like it's too hard of a place to try and change, whether it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I feel like I think it has to be one for all. But we just got to make, as referees and as a game, we've just got to be clearer on what it is that we're looking for when it comes to intentional, careless, reckless, or, for example, the knee to the head.
You know what they should do? They should get you involved. Because as we said earlier, you're the best person to talk about all of this. I think you'd give some really good guidance and be able to help out the NRL in their hour of need. Because, you know, they are under attack. They are under fire. And I think somebody like yourself, you could be, you know, the ace up the sleeve, mate.
The fans would go berserk if they knew I was in and around these kind of things, because, you know, I mean, like, I don't know Gordon Tallis personally, but I've seen things of what he did as a player. And then if you ask him a question about those kind of things, I feel like it's really hard to try and say things when maybe we were once those people, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Mate, I'll own it. I lived on the edge. Goran, and every fan would know that. Every fan would know that I was a competitor. Sometimes that competitiveness may have overstepped the mark. I'm owning those things. I knew that. Sometimes I feel like if I'm saying things, people are definitely going to be going, you cannot say what you're saying, because the old Madge Maguire magic, glass houses.
Oh,
but
man.
Hey, we're trying to find solutions, but I just don't think having different times for different incidents is going to work. It's most probably the game explaining to everyone what they're looking for and how we judge on each tackle, which is another bloody can of worms anyway. But if you can explain to me what you're looking for in high contact and the intent by showing vision of what we've seen, then at least then the audience and the fans can see what we're trying to say, you know, the game's trying to say and what they're looking for. Because if we go, Latrell Mitchell's careless tackle, Satili Tupanua is careless, reckless, and all the above, you know, those kind of things. Like, I think then we can see examples, and then we can start, okay, so when they make a call, that's what I'm saying. Purely on the basis of, you know, what the interpretation of a shoulder charge is. It's either your arms aren't wrapping, your arm is down, your arm is here. That's a shoulder charge. So we clearly know what a shoulder charge is. And as fans, we should know that, because we know it has to be a wrapping action. So you can actually hit with your hand out and up because you've got a wrapping action. So until we actually be nice and clear with what that looks like, I think we'll still get some of these things wrong.
And as you say, if the bunker can just sort of stay out of it as much as possible and just rule on the absolute howler, the shocker, the one that is...
Satilis.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a guy who's needs someone in the head. Or, hey, you missed a spare tackle. There's a guy whose brain is oozing out of his ear. Let's get that guy off the field, right? So use them for the howler, use them to adjudicate on whether a try's been scored or not, and that's that. Right? Yeah. I guess that's the solution. And we go from this weekend and hope that it's a lot better.
Definitely.
And, you know, like in the wash-up, I really do feel sorry for Scott Sorensen, because I think 3 weeks for what I felt was rather innocuous contact with Nathan Brown, it's just way too much. Way too much. You know, on League of Our Own, we often joke around about how Andrew Webster is a fan of the podcast, loves League of Our Own. Well, he might not be a fan, but somebody at the New Zealand Warriors, the One New Zealand Warriors, clearly is, because recently we featured in one of their reels on Instagram. Well, more to the point, I did.
Yeah, you were.
New Zealand Warriors, there's still plenty to talk about. Chance Nuka-Klookstar looking at maybe a move away, and maybe a move away to the Super League.
Mate, I don't know if that was that having a dig at us?
I don't know. Or maybe that was the only podcasts that they could find that had like really good audio talking about Chance Nickel-Klukstar possibly moving away to the Super League.
I actually enjoyed the clearness of the audio and the preciseness of what you were saying as well. Like
Thanks,
I thought it was actually spot on around talking about him maybe wanting to leave and playing in the Super League. And obviously they use that audio to showcase that he's staying.
But these are the qualities that you and I bring, right? You know, so like when there are a spate of sin binnings, that's your wheelhouse. When
Definitely.
it's, you know, perfect enunciation, that's me all day, baby. You know, and so
that's your job.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing it for more than 20 years. So if I can't articulate where Chance Nickel-Klukstar may or may not be going, then like just throw me out with the trash on Thursday night, mate.
Yeah, so honestly, I thought it was great. First and foremost, you got to start. Whether it was having a go at us or actually just
I think supporting
local
Content,
people. Obviously, I'm not obviously in New Zealand anymore, but supporting local content. I thought it was awesome. But what the awesome thing is that Chance isn't leaving. Like, I don't think the fans wanted to see him go. I don't think the club wanted to see him go. It became a headline, and everyone started speculating and rumours started. So I think it's great. He signed, 2 years to stay in New Zealand, stay at the Warriors. And I think for the fans and for his family and for the I guess the culture and for the opportunities that he's been able to create, I think it's awesome. We all know how good Chance is. We've spoken about, obviously, the game changing and moving with the speed of their game and the types of fullback now are coming in. We've spoken about his strengths around getting his numbers right. And they have spoken about it as well. Players, coaches, the club have spoken about the importance of having Chance as a fullback and the way he can set up your defensive line, especially on the line, and what he can do there. The energy that he brings to the group, I guess his personality that he has as a person. He's caring, he's loving, he's a family man. He's everything.
He's the perfect man. I might just have to marry him.
He's everything the Warriors ask for.
My wife will be annoyed, but you know,
as a person in the play, and the fans love him. So, man, a massive congratulations to him and his family. I think it's great. It was great news when it came out. We missed it, obviously, but it's
about 12 hours.
But about 12 hours. But I think for the club and for him and his family, a great player to have around, because not only you get all of what I just said, he also brings a lot of leadership qualities and abilities for younger guys coming through, whether it's Tane Tuopiki, whether it's the next, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck that's in the pathways, any sort of young kid that has aspirations to become the Warriors fullback, he can help mentor and guide them into that position. So they've got a good one there for sure.
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy that would actually help. He's not going to protect his own patch, right? These young guys coming through, he wants to impart his own knowledge and make them better, lift the team up. He's not about the individual. That much I know about Chance. And the reason why I say that, with that Instagram post, they weren't putting the boot into us, is because the man himself, CNK, at the announcement was basically saying that I had opportunities to go offshore. So it was a very real possibility that he would go and take a big money deal in the Super League, but he cited family and the club as massive reasons as to why he wanted to stay. Stay he does, and that's awesome. But I'm looking at the makeup of the Warriors backline for the foreseeable future, and I wonder what it means for a few people. Let's be honest about things. Chance Nickel-Klukstar is to Andrew Webster what Darius Boyd was to Wayne Bennett, right? Because Andrew Webster has shown faith and he's put all of his trust in CNK, even when you've got Roger coming back in, a Dahlia medal winning fullback. You got him coming back from rugby, and you've got Tane Tuopiki on your books. So CNK is kind of like the teacher's pet. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that is the way I view it, and I think a lot of Warriors fans would too. Now, if he's signed up to 2027, what does it mean for somebody like Tane Tuopiki, who's contracted to the end of 2026? Now, this is a guy who I think turns 26 in August. His opportunities to cement a first grade start full time, they are quickly ticking over and ticking by. You know, like it's going to pass him by before he knows it. And I wonder whether sitting at the Warriors behind CNK is what he wants for the rest of his days through that contract period. And, you know, if he is asked by the Warriors management if he wants to renegotiate and re-sign and go long term, I just don't know where he fits in if Chance is the first choice fullback, because while he does have, you know, benefits on the wing, the one thing that really freaked me out when I saw him on the wing was when he played up against Melbourne, and you get that height mismatch with Xavier Coates, and all you need to do is have an accurate kicking game from Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster, and he is absolutely negated. And Xavier Coates just jumped over him all day long. So fullback is definitely his position. What does he do is the question, man.
Oh, man, I think there's some selection headaches on the horizon for the Warriors, and I think they've been really consistent since their performance in Vegas, and everyone that's worn the jersey this year has put in, I reckon, some quality performances, hence where they sit on the table. And I guess they're healthy, that's the main thing. But some of these players that are sitting on the sidelines, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Dallin, are international world-class players. And if I look at their back line, if you've got Chanel at the back, you got Pompey, Ali, Berry, Tane Tuopiki, but you still got these two international players that come back in.
Yeah.
The math isn't adding up. Two have got to miss out. And I know in 24 there was some big conversations when Magic Round come around this time last year. Te Maire carved up. They were under the pump. They were under the pressure. Tane Tuopiki plays. Te Maire plays. They win, and then everyone's saying, let's not bring Sean back because they're doing such a great job. So the headaches on the horizon for them around selection in those positions, and because they're playing so consistent, is something to be watched, I think. But for me, Tane Tuopiki is definitely a fullback. He's a fullback. I think he's doing a great job at wing at the moment. He's playing his part within the team. He's getting his job done weekly. But like you said, you're coming up, when you do come into the bigger games against accurate kickers that put you on the spot, which I feel like you can still get put on the spot and expose that fullback. So I guess you can actually argue that point as well. But I think where the game's getting to for him, it is the fullback position. Yes, his age, 26, signed for another year. I guess he can go to the market at the end of this year and be able to talk to clubs anyway. I think when you look at the competition, as a player that would be playing the game, I'd be looking at where those positions are. So if you're a fullback, a couple of older guys running around at fullback positions, if you see yourself moving to another club, if you find yourself wanting to be a starting regular NRL player in the position that you want, I guess those conversations have to be starting now, and you have to be looking, because is he going to get the fullback this year? You re-signed Chance, you got Roger coming back in, they've had him at wing. Dallin comes back in, he's the other wing. And then so Pompey, Ali, Rocco Berry. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's got to be some headaches coming forward. So I like what Tane can bring. Obviously, similar to like someone like Keanu Kinney. Yes, Keanu Kinney's played a lot more games. He's getting more experience at fullback. He's getting better. He's still a kid. He's got a lot more in front of him at the moment with his age and where he's going to get to. I think Tane with some more consistency on the field, with more reps, but I mean more reps at fullback, he could become a quality player like someone of Keanu Kinney's caliber, and I really think he can make a real successful transition into that position for any club if there's opportunities out there for him. So as a player, when you're playing, you're looking at all these things, and hence what you said about Chance is when opportunities are there, you actually have to look at those things, whether you're going to stay and be at this club and this is where I want to be and what the club wants from me, or I move forward because someone's blocking my path of what my dream and what my goal is. So I'm actually intrigued to see what happens with this Warriors team moving forward, because man, they're playing some great footy and they're being consistent and everyone's doing their job.
Yeah. Last point on Tane. He may be very happy with his lot at the moment. Like he's 18 games into his first grade career, and he's played 7 matches this year. He's played every game. Yeah. Admittedly, mainly on the wing, and he's only played 1 game in his preferred position of fullback. But I mean, unless we talk to the guy and ask him, how satisfied are you? He may be very, very happy with his lot. Like, hey, before the season started, he probably thought, well, I'm going to bide my time in reserve grade and maybe I'll get the odd opportunity. He's played every single game the Warriors have played in this year, and he's playing again this weekend at Magic Round. So, look, I mean, the more opportunities he gets, that's great for right now. But it's also, to your point, it's putting him in the shop window. If he's able to negotiate at the end of this year and he's got a body of work that includes his fullback and wing play, then that could be seen as very attractive to one of the other 16 NRL clubs, or indeed maybe a Western Bears outfit that's coming in 2027.
Well, there it is. You know what I mean? Like a new franchise comes into the competition. For him, it's about being consistent in whatever position he's playing right now, so that he stays on the field and he's displaying what he can actually give to the team. So I think, to be honest, I think if you were to ask him, he'd be happy where he is because he's actually playing NRL. And I think for any player, sometimes you don't get to play your actual position, but you take playing NRL every single day than going back and playing New South Wales Cup and biding your time, isn't it? So I definitely think if you were to ask him, he'd say, I'm loving what I'm doing because I'm playing the game I love at the highest level every single day, and I'm doing a great job at it. So, he'll put himself in the shop window if he keeps playing consistent football and he's on the field playing NRL every week.
To the game itself, because the Warriors have the Cowboys, and I reckon outside of the Storm Raiders, it's actually probably one of the premier games of Magic Round weekend. You've got the Warriors who are occupying a top 4 position up against the North Queensland Cowboys, and the Cowboys were ropey as in the first 3 rounds. I think they conceded more than 100 points across those three losses they experienced, but they have come good in a massive way. They're littered with representative players. They've got beef on the bench, Cohen Hess, the big West Coaster, Griffin Neem. You got Jason Tamalolo up front as well, just wrecking ball that he is. Jeremiah Nane, who, God, he can do everything. Murray Taulangi loves to finish on the wing. Like that, they have threats all over the place. But the thing that I'm most looking forward to in this one is Wade Egan versus Reece Robson, because you've got a guy who is likely to play New South Wales Origin up against the incumbent New South Wales hooker from 2024. And yes, there's been a change of coach, and so maybe there'll be a change of ideas. And Wade Egan is, my opinion, hopefully you share it, he's playing the house down in 2025. He's gone to another level with his running game. We spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, how he was averaging close to sort of 90 metres a game. He's maintained that. 3 matches this year, he's run in excess of 100 metres. But he's also keeping up his defensive capabilities as well. Yeah, I love what he's doing. And so up against a guy who has played Origin, it's almost like, I don't know how you view it. I suppose we'll find out. Maybe it's a straight shootout between Wade Egan and Reece Robson, because you're probably likely to pick Apisai Korosau, given his deception and creativity and how, yeah, he's one of the, if not the leading hooker in the game. So Egan versus Reece Robson, that's where it is for me on Saturday night, man.
Oh man, Goran, I actually think right now at the moment that Wade Egan is miserably
Say it.
the best 9 at the moment,
In
and
the
what
game.
he's doing
In the game, period.
At the moment for what he's doing this year, for
Wow.
what he's doing this year for the Warriors and what the Warriors are doing for him.
Massive rap.
They
Massive rap.
I feel like he's healthy. That's the main thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's confident in what he's doing. The team around him are living off some of his creativity, his deception. He's no Api Korosau but I feel like Api Korosau is, I guess, a product of the Benji Marshall system. You know what I mean? I feel like he's gone to the extreme with his deception to the point that he's doing 360s and passing balls the other way. You know what I mean? Surely you're seeing that as surely you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like Wade Egan.
It's effective at
Yeah,
times.
it's effective at times, but you imagine trying to run off someone that does that and you're trying to get your timing right.
Yeah,
You
it's
actually
pretty
can't get your timing right. Yeah. So I feel like Wade Egan at the moment he's been the most creative hooker and the most consistent with his performance defensively and in attack. He's scoring points. He's making meters. He's bringing his forwards onto the ball. He's got a great pass both left and right. He 9 times out of 10 at the moment, I reckon he's picking the right option. And there was a moment on the weekend when the Metcalf makes a break against the Newcastle Knights and they get all right down to the try line and he just shows and goes. A typical dummy half try, but it's not effective if you don't have the support of your players around you and the deception of what Wade Egan has. He doesn't have the big oversell when he dummies the ball, but what he does have is just a nice sleight of hand. So I think for me, which I love this matchup, it could be a showdown on where they see what style of football they want to play. I feel like, man, imagine watching Payne Haas play off the back of some of what Wade Egan can do around the middle of the ruck. Depending on the style of football they want to play. We've spoken about it. Origin-like players, Madge Maguire style, just tough, go after the opposition, strong defensive players, no frills, just be battle hard and Origin-like. Mitch Barnett, prime example. Whether they go for that again or the change of heart, we go for the informed players that are playing at the highest level right now, that are playing in form, that we can actually play an actual style of football that's going to win the game. I think both can work. I think New South Wales have got some quality players, and there's 3 nines that we've just mentioned. I think this game's could be a test on what the coaches are looking for when it comes to nines and what style of football they can do, and a great challenge for Wade and for the Warriors. If the Warriors kick on and just say, before Origin, they're sitting in the second place, you know what I mean? Or even may get lucky and be at the top of the ladder. Wade Egan will have played a massive part in getting into where they get to. And if they're sitting there, comes Origin selections, I think definitely he's got to be in calculations.
Yeah. And it's the sort of like a battle of different styles, because I think people look at Reece Robson and say he is the Origin defensive specialist, right? And you've got Wade Egan, who is the runner and, deception and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it might come down to ultimately the style that Laurie Daly and his New South Wales coaching staff want to go with. But Wade Egan, as dictated by the wonderful Adam Blair, is the best hooker in the game right now. So you'd be stupid not to pick him. I think if he can stay fit and the Warriors keep winning, then he's got to be in that Origin setup. And it's funny, man, because I always view it as a huge bonus, a huge lift for a team if you can put one of your number into state of Origin contention. But I've seen recently some people are saying, no, we don't want Wade Egan to be selected for New South Wales State of Origin. The Warriors need him to continue to win. But
I get it.
I'm much the former. I think it's a huge credit to the club, to the team, if you can force somebody's selection into the Origin arena. And I think last year, case in point, had to be Mitch Barnett because his performances were undeniable. And I think people were so happy for him. Warriors fans were so happy that he had made the step up, especially after that amount of time. It came so late in his career. And so I think if Wade Egan does get the nod, the naysayers, the people who are like, they're sort of hanging on to, one, we need him for the Warriors' success, and two, surely he's going to qualify for the Kiwis at some point. But I think he's New South Wales blue through and through. So if the opportunity was presented to him, he would take that.
Oh, yeah, man. Far out. I think he's done his 5 years in New Zealand. He becomes now a citizen.
He hasn't done 5 years in New Zealand, mate. He was in Australia through COVID times.
Yeah, but you can argue the point there. Come on.
I don't think you can argue the point. He was in Australia. That's a different country. Like you and I are in different countries right now, mate. You're not in New Zealand. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, I get that and I understand that. But I think, like you said, I think he would be a passionate blues, and that would be his number one choice. And the fans are saying that because obviously the Warriors are doing something good so far this year. You know what I mean? They come into round 9 and sitting not comfortably, sitting at the top half of the competition.
I'd call it comfortable, mate. They're 2 points off top.
Well, we are only round 9. Come on, Goran.
But it's still comfortable. I'd rather be 2 points off top than where the Penrith Panthers are.
Well, yeah, but like Ivan Cleary said, it's only round 9. It's only round 9. Anything can happen in the next, 9 weeks, 10, 12 weeks. You could go through games where you just lose half your squad. And
already happening at the Warriors, mate.
She goes downhill, and to key players.
James Fisher-Harris, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak.
Don't be like that to Dimitri and Lecker. They've been outstanding.
I'm not saying
they are getting a job done. Getting a job done. Don't be like that to those two.
I'm not. I love those guys, but you're telling me the Warriors could lose key players. They have, and they're still winning, and they're still 2 points off top.
When I speak about key players, I'm talking about spine. Spine players are your key players. You can put players around your spine to help your spine be effective. So everyone's healthy at the moment. We're talking about Wade Egan because he's healthy and they're doing such a good thing. Luke Metcalf is carving. Chanel is getting his job done. You got Chan's at the back. When he's not playing, Tane's at the back. I know we're losing someone like, you're losing someone like Fish up the front, but you've got some kids coming through that are just hungry for success and after it. And then you've got obviously Dallin sitting on the sideline who, when he's in his prime, that guy is back fence all day, every day, and loves the contact. So, yeah, they're okay for you. They're sitting comfortably in the top of the ladder there, up in the top 4. So, a real big challenge, I think, magic round for the Warriors up against a Cowboys team who you said can score some points, who are now coming into a bit of form. Nanai's actually been a beast. Jason Tamalolo comes off the bench. He's bringing some impact. Big Griff Neem is playing like he's a ball player. They got Purdue out wide, who's an exciting young talent. And then obviously with Drinkwater and what he can do with the ball. And I know previously he's had his moments against the Warriors where he's just torn them up through the middle of the park and played some the way he has. So a huge test for the Nines, definitely, but also a huge test for the Warriors up against this Cowboys team. And needed to say that the coaching staff, there's some good some relationships there with Toddy Payton and what he's done with the Warriors previously. So there's a little bit of rivalry in there, and let's see what happens.
Lastly, on the Wade Egan stuff, I mean, we started off this chat talking about head knocks and Andrew Abdo's statistics of, we're 90% up on head-high contact on this time last year and 379 high shots. And you think about Wade Egan and what he's been through and concussion issues and all that sort of stuff, and he hasn't copped a high knock and he's not out on the sidelines through concussion. Touch wood, mate. Touch wood, because we don't want one of those stray high shots to land fair and square on the jaw or in the temple of Wade Egan this Magic round, because then it really would be a tragic round for the Warriors and Wade Egan in New South Wales Origin. Okay, Blairy, Betcha This Happens last week. I mean, it's just it's like deja vu all over again, to quote the great Alan McLaughlin, who used to call Warriors games for Radio Sport back in the day. We fell over at the first hurdle again, picking the Bulldogs over a rampaging Broncos outfit. That was the wrong thing to do. So I'm actually taking a different approach again for Betcha This Happens for Magic Round. Hey, do you want to know what I'm doing?
I like this, where it's going.
What do you reckon I'm up to? Because you have no idea.
No, I've got no idea, but I reckon you're just going to go and choose the favourites.
No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick an anytime try scorer in each of the 8 games and multi that up. Because I feel like
I like it.
I feel like I've got a better grasp on who's going to score, who's more likely to score, as opposed to who's going to win a game, because it's been all over the place, as we always discuss on League of Our Own.
Yep.
Highlighted by the Broncos and the Bulldogs.
I like this direction.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Bulldogs were like the best defensive team, and then they almost conceded as many points in one game as they have all season previously. So, yeah, I mean, looking at the top try scorers charts, I feel like we might have a little bit of success here. So, Betcha This Happens for Magic Round, anytime try scorer. In the Eels versus Sharks, I'm taking Sam Stonestreet. He's scored 6 already.
You're pretty much taking the favourites.
Yeah, that's right.
But let's go. I want to hear it all.
Yeah. Sam Stonestreet has scored 6 tries this season already. He's paying $1.90. Roosters versus Dolphins, I'm going with the Hammer. He's got 5 tries for the season. He's paying $1.94. James Schiller, one of your Knights boys, scored against the Warriors on Anzac Day. He's 4 from 6, so he's paying $2.15. I'm on him against the Rabbits. Waz and the Cowboys, we spoke about the attacking threat of the Cowboys. Murray Taulagi has 6 tries this season. He's paying $1.91. I'm on that as well. Tyra, are you bored by this yet?
Nah, listening in.
Yeah, because it basically is all the guys who are favourites.
I'll say my bit at the end.
Yeah, cool. Tyrell Sloan, I'm backing him, $1.92. Dragons up against the Tigers. Bronson Sherry is paying $2.20. He's got 5 tries for the season. Bulldogs and the Titans. Jesse Arthurs is basically a lock it in Eddie.
Top
he
try
has
scorer.
10 tries for the season, so I'll back him at $1.75. And then the last one, I'm backing Kiwi, Seb Chris, to score for the Raiders against the Storm. He's paying $2.80. Can you believe that? He's got 7 tries already in season 2025. I'm putting $1 on that, Adam, because the odds for that 8 try multi, $313.29. Of course, bet responsibly, R18 and all of that with the Betcha app. But that is incredible compared to what I was facing with the 8-game multi. I'm doing an 8-try multi, and I've got $313.29 coming my way if I just put $1 on.
Can we spice that up a little bit?
How do you spice that up?
Can we just give a little bit of Salt Bay on top of that?
Go on then.
let's chuck a front row in amongst the cat in the with the pigeons.
Who's your front rower?
Adam Fanua Blake, obviously.
Adam Fanua Blake to score against the Eels.
Payne Huss.
Look, okay.
I'm just asking, can we chuck a little bit of Salt Bay in there just to spice it up a little bit? That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's something we do for next week because, Adam Fanua Blake is paying $3.15 for any time try scorer. So I don't know what that would do to, probably be looking at $1,000 or something like that. You and your salts.
It's gone from salt to that's raining money. That's just raining money.
Well, we certainly hope so, mate. We certainly hope so. Mate, it's been a good one today. Really enjoyed that. League of Our Own, EP 10. We're in double figures for Season 2. Anything else you'd like to add before we say ta-ta to you and me and everybody else?
No, awesome, Goran. I hope everyone can enjoy Magic Round. As always, man, it's a pleasure doing what we love doing, but also giving it to our audience, our fans, and please keep bringing in all that engagement. Keep dropping in your comments to everyone that's listening. Please jump on and subscribe to either our Instagram account and also, obviously, our Run It Straight network, and jump on there and leave a comment and just let us know, how we're going. It'd be good. So, again, appreciate everyone's feedback as well.